Welcome back, Guardians. The Nine have invited us, and many of you have asked the question, what does our future hold? Can we utilize the light and the dark to secure a victory for untold generations into the future by allowing both the dark and the light paracausal energies to flow through us? We were to operate as the catalyst for these varying degrees of inputs to exude our extraordinary will upon the cosmos. But the invitation of the Nine also holds a look into the future, of sorts, a glimpse as to what is to come on the horizon. The nature of our solar systems and some of its cosmic bodies are set to change. We also see the glimpses of a new enemy, one of the Fallen, a veteran of the Reef Wars and a bane to humanity and Reef alike. Erasmus, the one they call the Ship Stealer. But why? Why, you may ask, as we all have, are the Nine showing us these destinations, these visions, making up the face of echoes of past and our present, flipping the world as we know it upside down, just to provide the opportunity for us, as Guardians, to learn? But what? What have we learned? To start, we should discuss the connective tissue of the Nine's influence upon us, and how their schemes have impacted Guardians, and the political landscape of the solar system. Rumors abound here, Guardians. Seemingly anything regarding the Nine seems to be clouded, as if we attempt to uncover impossibilities, figures shrouded in question and conjecture. Some of us would tell you they know exactly what the Nine are, but their answers are just as confusing and clouded as the question. Others would beckon them that the Nine are nothing, but only showcase a fraction of the real truth. I'd argue that some of your definitions is slightly subjective, while there is a baseline of hard fiction. The subtle details that define these enigmas can be up for debate. The current, most widely adopted determination of these beings, if we can even call them that, is entities composed of dark matter that gained a form of consciousness due to the complexity of gravitational pulls to and from planets against our own sun's pull, over time after seemingly endless loops. But the Nine are dependent on the celestial planets of our solar system and the life that those planets are occupied by. But life arose on the worlds at the heart of the Nine, tiny, complicated motions of ecosystems and metabolisms and computations. That life left mass shadows in the wind of the Nine, plucking at them like harp strings. From these trembles of structures, the Nine learned to seed enormous resonating waves, thoughts vaster than worlds. So the Nine awoke, and in time they understood that they were as fragile as they were mighty. For if the life that seeded their thoughts ever passed away, they too would vanish. They had no eyes to catch the light. They had no ears to hear. And yet they turned their wills upon the alien world of matter and strove to learn, for they knew they had to protect their hearts or die. The Nine must either continue to protect humanity or find a way to move away from their dependence upon us. In some small ways, we are connected. The Nine are in all of us, as we are in all of them. Theoretically, it does help explain why they've always sought to influence the events of the world around us, for good or for worse. They've been accredited for influencing Skolas's release, the disabling of Earth's satellite network during the Red War, have supposed connections to the Ahamkara, or even sent them. The list is quite substantial, Guardians, but each point has an equal counterpoint aimed to subvert the truth, at least as if the Nine are creatures or things that enjoy being misunderstood. Perhaps it is their very nature that the Nine, due to their creation and operation, are literal shadows, misunderstood, hiding, and shrouded. Their actions are only a matter of fact to their core, as opposed to a grander plan of prophecy. Regardless, they have given us weaponry through Zur, information through the emissary, and a chance to see the future through the glimpses within their realm. The arrival of the darkness across the system has brought about a question many reach out to ask. Can we utilize the darkness? Not to subvert the light or weaken it, but to understand it, to grow from knowledge on how to use these paracausal forces in our best interest, to protect our tower and further its ring of spears. The Nine, whether all aligned or divided, have given us a chance to test our theory and provide some potential far-reaching implications. Firstly, Guardians have reported upon entering the realm of the Nine, transported via Drifter's hulking ship, that they must use both the light and the dark to unlock the forward path. Now, this report would argue that the literal test and the philosophical test are the same. For instance, you'd need to be infused with both dark and light to unlock a series of doors. You must either breathe easy in the illuminated path to create light, or battle within the shadows to create dark. But to move forward, you must do both. You must walk a middle path, beyond just the light. You will be tested, no doubt, as many have alluded to, by echoes of the Taken, of the past and of the future. Perhaps our two greatest enemies are present, the Cabal and the Fallen, alongside a massive martial force of Taken echoes, designed to test your resolve, but also your mental faculties. Now, many traditionalists, let's call them, would argue that to subvert the light with an infusion of the darkness is the path of the enemy. To allow the dark in is what will accelerate the second collapse, a reality we are already facing. The reformists, those like Eris Morn, even the Drifter, would argue that through their actions on Io, that the darkness is a force that must be understood, must be utilized if we are to survive. To become trapped in dogma and build walls around ourselves and call all other thoughts as heresy, to exile those who believe in another way, is the path to the collapse. A true and final extermination of humanity, not just the light that shepherds it. Reportedly, as Guardians continue to delve further, they are taunted by a fallen Kel Echo, whom many believe to be Aramis, the ship stealer, veteran of the Reef Wars and escapee of the Prison of Elders. Rumors run wild with subjective ideation intertwined, that Aramis has united the now scattered House of Devils, House of Dusk, and House of Wolves. Perhaps this is showcased in one of the final challenges reported by Brave Guardians, that they face three versions of her, one in each corner of a triangle, one potentially representing each house that now follows her. She, or at least the Echo version of her, leads Guardians further through the realm of the Nine, where they lapse upon a final test of strength, of ideals. Aramis is infused with darkness, at least her Echo version is, and for Guardians to fully defeat this Echo, they must use both light and dark paracausal energy. The light has sufficed in the past, and it continues to serve us, but with this coming arrival, the time of dependency on the light has ended, and to survive, to keep the heart of the Nine beating with power, with determined efficacy, for humanity to survive, it must adopt a new way of thinking. It must align itself with goodness and cherish that both the light and the dark are energies to be used. To defeat this new fallen empire on Europa, we need to rise above, beyond just the light. We must accept that there is a future in which our enemies, like Aramis, will utilize the darkness to combat us, to diminish the strength of the traveler of the last city, to decimate our ideals, our hopes, our peoples. And for us, and all the untold species of the galaxy, perhaps that of the universe, for us to prevail, we must don the mantle of responsibility, of curiosity, of bravery, and imbue ourselves with both light and dark, with both sky and deep. The final prophecy, or vision the Nine provide to us, is glimpses of Titan, Io, Mars, and Mercury, that these planets, or areas on them, are seen in ruin, largely figuratively. There is quite a bit of symbolism used by the Nine to convey their points and to provide us a chance to understand what's to come. And with symbolism comes some form of subjective reasoning, where there are no right or wrongs per se, but rather a defining pragmatism that your truth is the right truth, and that it can live alongside other truths. The first theory, and perhaps the most powerful, is that these planets will be devastated by the darkness, destroyed or made uninhabitable by their veiled abilities. In a similar fashion, these storms were also reported by many during the days of the first collapse. The atmospheric conditions of many planets in our solar system would go almost nuclear, causing untold swaths of destruction, killing remorselessly. The very crusts of these worlds were subject to total decimation. Perhaps this is what the Nine intend to tell us, that these planets are targets of the darkness, that they aim to purify these worlds from the touch of the traveler, as if the light is a poison seeping deep within the veins of rock and ocean of our worlds. Perhaps it is simply a show of force to convince us our fight is rather futile against forces that can control planetary conditions, and that there is only one path for survival: accepting our so-called salvation. Perhaps, Guardians, it is another lie told to us by the Nine, as their being is very much connected to these worlds. Perhaps it is a fragment of reality that is not our own. I pass this question to you. What do you believe? Those who seek answers within the realm of the Nine may find themselves vanquished in utter power of our echoes of our enemies. Others may rise virtually overnight to find victory, but fewer still may delve to ask the question, why have the Nine shown us this prophecy? To prepare us for a future we know is to come, to ensure that we are well armed in both sky and deep, to ensure their survival, especially if the Nine are connected to our own planets, to the very life force of the vast peoples of flora and fauna. The challenge remains. To find your answer of the nature of light and dark, you are required to test yourself. Test our religion of violence against those who dare to raise arms against us, to ensure that our way of life, our determination to transcribe our fates upon the galaxy is undisturbed, and that our way of war is good, that we seek to continue a golden age, not just of expansion or of advanced technologies, but of understandings. We seek ever higher apexes, and the challenges that reside upon those peaks will test our resolve. And now we face a real enemy, one that has a singular objective, one that will wage a war of attrition, not just on our homes and peoples, but upon our ideals, to change our very way of thinking. We must prove, not just to the Nine, or to the pyramids, or to the darkness, that we are a people free from the machinations of the supposed gods that collapse upon us, that we will continue to seek answers, question our own perspectives, and grow from conflict. So seek out this realm of the Nine. Push yourselves against the sharp edge of these echoes. Cut yourselves upon their swords of reason and logic, and arise with an undeniable understanding of what we must do next. Intertwine ourselves with sky and deep, with light and dark, and make our own fate. Hey everyone, Wally here. Hope you guys all enjoyed this video. It hits on a similar theme of the past couple, so I hope that's not getting too tiresome. What I believe we learned from this prophecy dungeon is pretty straightforward, and was semi-revealed in the Beyond the Light livestream a few weeks back. The Nine intend to show us that the way forward needs both light and dark, if we are to face our true enemy. Now you can argue what our true enemy really is, but not the point here. We see this in the first set of encounters. We have to unlock doors, use light modes and dark modes, so on and so forth, right? Then we are transported to the Waste, this long desert area where we see Mercury, Io, Titan, Mars are all in ruin. This ties into that these areas are being vaulted in the coming Beyond the Light DLC. But I imagine that many of you are going to agree with me here. They're not just going away, the pyramid ships will make them uninhabitable in some fashion. Finally, you fight what many to believe is Aramis, one of the primary enemies in Beyond the Light, supposedly going to be the raid boss at the end of the DLC, who is utilizing darkness energy against us. Now, the Nine seek to teach us that we need both sides of this energy to grow and become less dependent on a god that has chosen to remain relatively silent, even when the greatest of its enemies has now arrived on its doorstep. And in some way, it makes sense. If we die, the planets are to be destroyed. The Nine supposedly would too. Now, if you hadn't had a chance to run the dungeon yet, I really, really recommend it. Get on LFG if you're on PC. Hop on our Lore Seekers Discord. I'm happy to run people through it. It is a really good destination. It's probably one of the most imaginative skyboxes and art directions and just overall high quality destinations that we've had in a very, 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 very long time. And in my opinion, it kind of goes right up there with like Venus from Destiny 1. I had a personal favorite in Venus. With that said, I hope you guys are all doing good, staying safe, and obviously more lore to come.